America's economy is bleeding out and nobody's coming to save you. The middle class? Gutted. The poor? Forgotten. And the rich? Laughing from a tax shelter while you try to stretch a $200 paycheck across 30 days of survival. 78% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck, and that includes people making over $150,000 a year. You're not broke because you're irresponsible. You're broke because the system was engineered to drain you. Rent is up 44%. Groceries, 61%. Health insurance premiums, 72%. Meanwhile, wages? Up a pathetic 3.1% after inflation. And that's if you're lucky. You're not working to live anymore. You're working to delay collapse. There's over $1.3 trillion in credit card debt, and average APRs are past 26%, meaning most people are paying interest on survival. But the Fed wants to pat itself on the back for cooling inflation, while Americans are choosing between gas and groceries. This isn't a recession. This is a controlled demolition of the working class, and every damn number proves it. You know what's wild? People keep saying, just budget better, as if Americans haven't squeezed every penny so hard the copper is practically screaming for mercy. But here's the thing no one wants to admit. Budgeting stopped working because the math stopped working. It's not lack of discipline, it's arithmetic betrayal. The average American household now spends $1,182 more per month on basic necessities than they did in 2020. And that is before counting emergencies, repairs, or anything remotely resembling joy. Rent alone has jumped 34% nationally, but in metro areas, it's up 48%. And utilities are quietly adding adjustments and grid fees like it's a subscription box nobody asked for. Meanwhile, incomes? Yeah, wages have grown a total of 1.5% after inflation since 2019. That means people aren't falling behind. They're being pushed behind, forcefully, repeatedly. And the kicker? More than 70% of U.S. workers now say their paycheck runs out before the next one arrives, even for households making between $90K and $150K. You used to hear that number from struggling families. Now you're hearing it from software engineers, nurses, teachers, federal employees, people with degrees, people who did everything right. But here's the part no one talks about. The modern budget has a hidden enemy, the variability tax. Groceries aren't priced like groceries anymore. They're priced like airline tickets. Eggs cost one thing on Monday, another thing on Friday, and if you blink too hard, boom, that's another 30 cents. Insurance premiums swing monthly. Utility surcharges change by season. Childcare centers raise rates biannually. Even your internet bill is dynamic. Households aren't budgeting. They're trying to predict the future like Wall Street traders. And most months, the future punches them in the throat. So when people ask why Americans can't save, why they can't get ahead, why they're exhausted, the answer is simple. The cost of living is no longer a number. It's a moving target, and the target is sprinting away faster than anyone's paycheck can chase it. Here's the reality people feel but can't always articulate. The paycheck isn't just smaller, it's weaker. It has less gravitational pull. It hits the bank account and evaporates on contact. We're living in a country where the median take-home pay lost 22% of its purchasing power in just 5 years. Yet the government insists inflation is under control. Controlled for who? Because if you walk into a grocery store today, strawberries cost as much as a car payment in the 90s, and a family-sized pack of chicken wings is practically a luxury item. But the deeper crisis is structural. The American paycheck is no longer anchored to productivity. It's anchored to corporate cost-cutting and labor arbitrage. Since 2020, worker productivity has risen 4.8%, but real compensation has risen 0%. Companies are squeezing more output while distributing none of the gains back to the people delivering them. Meanwhile, payroll taxes, health premiums, transportation, and basic insurance are consuming a bigger slice of income every year. It's a wage treadmill. The faster people run, the more the ground moves backward. And if that wasn't enough, the new employment landscape is cannibalizing stability itself. Nearly 36 million Americans now work in roles categorized as non-salaried variable income, meaning their earnings depend on fluctuating shifts, gig availability, or demand cycles they don't control. So one month you're fine, the next month you're eating ramen with the seasoning packet divided into halves so it lasts longer. The paycheck used to be a foundation. Now it's a gamble. And the scariest part? Americans aren't just struggling to live. They're struggling to plan, because planning requires predictability, and today's paycheck carries none. When your income is shaky and your expenses are explosive, all it takes is one delayed payment or one unexpected bill to push you straight into survival mode. That's not financial instability. That's engineered precarity. A workforce living on edge because the system needs them on edge. The American middle class isn't shrinking. It's dissolving, like sugar in boiling water. And the boil is getting hotter every month. Back in 2000, 55% of Americans were classified as middle class. Today, it's down to 42%, the lowest ever recorded. Not because people are moving up, but because they're falling down. And here's the part economists whisper about, but won't say out loud. The middle class collapse is accelerating because essential life milestones, homeownership, healthcare, childcare, transportation, education, have all inflated at rates between 200% and 600% faster than wage growth. A house that cost $180,000 in 2010 now costs $420,000. Insurance premiums that were $340 a month in 2015 are now $672. The average cost to raise a child to age 18 hit $322,000 in 2024, not including college. Who is affording this? Who can? Even dual-income households with professional careers are slipping into high-risk financial positions. Newly released census data shows 61% of middle-income families could not cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing, and one-third qualify as asset poor, meaning they're one crisis away from losing everything. And here's the twist no one sees coming. Financial strain isn't hitting the poor hardest anymore. It's hitting the middle class, because the poor have always lived with scarcity systems. The middle class has not. They had buffers, savings, home equity, retirement accounts, and those buffers are being drained at historic levels. Over $127 billion has been pulled from 401ks and IRAs in the last year alone. Home equity withdrawals are back to 2006 levels. The middle class isn't slipping into poverty. They're being dragged by structural forces that no amount of cutting back can stop. And once the middle collapses, the entire economic structure becomes top-heavy. Historically, that ends very, very badly. You ever feel like you're working harder than ever yet somehow losing ground? Like no matter how disciplined you are, how many subscriptions you cut, how many takeout meals you cancel, the financial drain never stops. That feeling has a name now among economists: lifestyle deficit disorder, the psychological breaking point where the cost of simply existing exceeds the emotional capacity to manage it, and millions of Americans are already deep in it. It's not a joke, and it's not about overspending. It's about chronic economic strain reprogramming people's nervous systems. Nearly 78% of U.S. adults now report daily financial stress symptoms: chest tightness, insomnia, decision fatigue, irritability, and emotional burnout. This isn't personal weakness. It's the body responding to prolonged uncertainty. The human brain wasn't designed for a world where survival depends on constantly monitoring fluctuating costs: rent, groceries, insurance premiums, gas prices, child expenses, debt payments, surprise fees, subscription renewals, and penalties for falling behind. Americans now make over 2,000 financial micro-decisions per month, up from 500 in the early 2000s. That cognitive load alone is crushing. And here's the deeper truth. Lifestyle deficit disorder emerges when the cost of maintaining the minimum quality of life rises faster than the ability to adapt. It's why people feel trapped, even when they're doing everything right. It's why burnout is exploding among young professionals. It's why families delay children, skip medical care, avoid vacations, or return to living with parents. It's why the phrase, "I can't do this anymore," is becoming terrifyingly common. Americans aren't becoming weaker. Life is becoming mathematically unmanageable, and the psychological bill is coming due. The economy isn't just draining bank accounts, it's draining human resilience, and nothing collapses a society faster than exhausted citizens running on fumes. Let's talk about the cruelest joke in modern personal finance, the emergency fund. For years, financial experts preach the same gospel: save 3 to 6 months of expenses for a rainy day. But here's the storm cloud no one prepared for. It's been raining non-stop for 4 years, and most Americans never had an umbrella. According to the latest bank rate survey, 57% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency. But that's not even the shocking part. The new twist is this: even among people who do have emergency savings, nearly 2/3 are now forced to use those funds just to cover routine expenses like rent, utilities, or groceries, not one-off emergencies. Think about that. The emergency fund has become the regular fund, and it's being drained faster than it can refill. In 2023 alone, U.S. households withdrew over $140 billion from savings accounts, with many reporting budget gaps as the reason. The average middle-class family is now operating in a permanent deficit. Every month is a tightrope walk with no net. And when something breaks, a tire, a filling, a water heater, it's not a setback anymore, it's a catastrophe. What used to be unexpected has become expected but unaffordable. And that flips the psychology entirely. People aren't saving for emergencies. They're anticipating collapse. Financial advisors can keep repeating their mantras, but here's the truth from the ground. You can't build an emergency fund on negative cash flow. The math doesn't allow it. When the cost of existence outpaces income, saving becomes a privilege, not a habit. And what happens when there's no savings to tap? People turn to credit, again and again, until the cycle eats itself. That's not poor planning. That's a system that punishes preparedness and rewards dependence. In the 1980s, Americans had an average savings rate of 11%. Today, it's 3.5% and falling. Not because people forgot how to save, but because the modern American economy doesn't leave anything to save from. Survival in America has become a subscription service. You don't buy security anymore. You rent it, monthly, at ever-increasing rates. Housing, monthly rent or mortgage. Healthcare, monthly premiums. Car insurance, phone service, groceries on Klarna, electricity, budget billing, streaming, childcare, security systems. Even jobs now come with memberships, from rideshare platforms to professional certification renewals. And if you miss a payment, you're not just behind, you're locked out. The average American pays into 34 different monthly obligations, many on auto debit, totaling nearly $3,115 a month in fixed expenses, and that's before discretionary spending. The system isn't just expensive, it's relentless. Miss your rent, eviction, miss your health premium, coverage loss, miss a car note, repossession, and it's getting worse. A record 41% of Americans now subscribe to buy now, pay later services, not for luxury items, but for essentials like food, diapers, or dental work. That's right. Americans are financing toothpaste. The line between need and luxury has been blurred by convenience tech that makes poverty look frictionless. Want groceries but can't pay? Zip it. Need gas but short on cash? Affirm it. But here's the catch. These tools don't solve affordability. They just delay impact. They fracture time, creating the illusion of breathing room while stacking obligations so deep that one bad week can cause a collapse. And the architecture of this system is brilliant, not in fairness, but in enforcement. Late fees, overdraft fees, interest hikes, penalty clauses. It's designed not to forgive delay, but to monetize it. You're not just living paycheck to paycheck. You're leasing your life in 30-day increments. Miss one renewal cycle and the whole tower comes crashing down. There is no margin. There is no safety net. There's just the subscription carousel of survival. And once you're on, getting off feels impossible. You remember how they sold the gig economy, right? Be your own boss. Work on your schedule. Unlimited earning potential. But let me tell you what that really meant. Unlimited risk for you, unlimited profit for them. The gig economy is now a central pillar of American labor. Over 36% of U.S. workers engage in gig, freelance, or contract-based income. That's nearly 60 million people, many of them with no benefits, no health care, no unemployment insurance, and no consistent hours. It's not a side hustle anymore. For millions, it's the only hustle. And while the corporations that run this system rake in billions, the people doing the work are one blown tire away from financial collapse. In 2024, the average Uber driver nets just $11.87 an hour after expenses. That's below minimum wage in many states. Food delivery workers, they average $9.25 an hour after gas and fees. And the platforms, they call this flexibility. But what kind of flexibility is it when you have to work 70 hours a week just to scrape together rent? It's not freedom. It's fragility with an app interface. And here's the worst part. Gig workers can't qualify for traditional loans, can't prove income for rentals, and can't stop working, not for a day, without falling behind. The American labor market has quietly rebranded exploitation as entrepreneurship. No health insurance? You're independent. No pension? You're flexible. No rights? You're innovative. It's dystopian poetry. The IRS now estimates that gig workers underreport income by $214 billion per year, not because they're dishonest, but because they're desperate and the system is too unstable to even keep records. And while AI and automation creep in to take even these jobs, people are expected to remain grateful for the opportunity. The truth is, the gig economy didn't democratize work. It outsourced risk, atomized labor, and handed workers a smartphone instead of a contract. And millions bought in because they had no choice. Because the traditional labor market betrayed them first. And now, they're stuck hustling in a hamster wheel of volatility where the boss is invisible and the burnout is very, very real. In America, you don't need to get sick to go bankrupt. You just need to exist. Healthcare has become the single biggest financial threat to the average household, even more than housing or food, and the numbers are brutal. Since 2010, health insurance premiums have risen over 265%, while wages rose just 48%. The average family plan now costs $24,000 a year, which is more than the median annual rent in 27 states. But here's the darkest twist. Even people with good insurance are drowning. Deductibles have tripled in the last decade. A typical deductible is now $5,200 for a family, and most Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, meaning one flu season can wipe them out. And it's not just emergencies. Everyday costs have become predatory. A single urgent care visit? $148. A basic blood test? $93. A bottle of common antibiotics? $38. Mental health therapy? $140 per session. Americans are skipping dentists, skipping checkups, skipping prescriptions, skipping the care that prevents the crises, all because the upfront cost is too high. And that's the trap. The system profits most from the people who avoid care until it becomes catastrophic. Hospitals know it, insurers know it, pharma knows it. And meanwhile, medical debt has exploded past $195 billion, with 70% of it held by people who had insurance. We're not talking about a failure of personal responsibility. We're talking about a system where the insured can't afford care, the covered can't cover costs, and the healthy are one injury away from financial ruin. Healthcare in America isn't a safety net. It's a minefield. You don't know which bill will explode, but you know one eventually will. And when it does, the fallout is instant. Wiped out savings, ruined credit, delayed rent, empty pantry, maxed out card. You can live paycheck to paycheck in this country and still not be safe from a sprained ankle. And when the cost of staying healthy competes with the cost of staying housed, more Americans are forced to choose survival over well-being. That's not healthcare. That's slow-motion financial violence. America's housing market isn't broken. It's been hijacked. What used to be a path to stability has turned into a fortress designed to keep ordinary people out. In the last 4 years alone, home prices have surged 46% nationwide, while mortgage rates jumped from 2.7% to over 7%. That combination has made monthly payments skyrocket an average of 109% since 2020. A house that cost $1,450 a month to finance now costs $3,060, with the same income. And wages sure as hell didn't double. Not even close, but it gets uglier. Institutional investors, Wall Street firms, private equity giants, foreign capital pools, now own one in every 6 homes bought in major metro markets. They buy in cash, outbid families, and then rent the homes back to the same people they priced out. That's not a market. That's feudalism. Meanwhile, rents are up 39% since 2020, and in some cities up more than 60%. And this isn't because tenants suddenly got richer, it's because landlords can raise prices faster than people can say lease renewal. Even worse, local governments tie property taxes to these inflated market values. So, homeowners who barely scraped into the market are now sinking under property tax hikes and insurance premiums rising 30 to 50% annually, especially in states hit by climate disasters or insurer exits. But here's the sinister shift. Homeownership used to be the engine of the middle class. It built generational wealth. It created stability. Today, it's a gated asset class, a controlled pipeline, a wealth ladder where the bottom rungs have been sawed off. Millennials bought homes 10 years later than boomers. Gen Z may not buy at all. Not because they don't want to, but because the math no longer works. You can't save for a down payment when half your income goes to rent and the other half goes to debt. The housing crisis isn't just an affordability problem, it's an access problem, and the door is closing. The American economy has already collapsed for millions, just not in a way that makes headlines. There's no stock market crash, no breadline photos, no dramatic event. This is a slow collapse, a household-by-household implosion, hidden beneath the illusion of normalcy. The signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Over 63% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That's not a statistic. That's a structural failure. Delinquencies on credit cards are at a 33-year high. Auto loan defaults are the worst since the Great Recession. Payday loan demand is up 47% year over year. Food bank usage has doubled since 2019. And here's the kicker. The US now has the lowest savings rate since 2007, right before everything crashed last time. The stress is visible in the numbers, but even more in people's behavior. Record numbers of adults are delaying marriage, avoiding children, postponing medical care, canceling dental visits, putting off home repairs, skipping meals to stretch groceries, selling belongings on marketplace apps, taking on multiple jobs, moving back in with parents, and relying on credit just to get through Tuesday. That's not resilience. That's survival mode. Meanwhile, corporations post record profits. The Fed says the economy is strong, and Wall Street cheers like nothing is happening. But underneath that, the foundation is rotting, because an economy isn't healthy when GDP is growing. It's healthy when its people can live. And right now, they can't. The American dream didn't die overnight. It eroded quietly, under fees, under debt, under interest, under inflation, under stagnant wages, under a system that monetized basic existence. The collapse isn't coming. It's here. It's in the overdraft fees, the skipped meals, the maxed-out cards, the silent panic in the grocery aisle, the exhaustion in every paycheck earner's voice. The truth is simple. America isn't in a cost of living crisis. America is the cost of living crisis. And unless something changes, this slow collapse will become a fast one. You're not imagining it. It's not just hard to live in America right now. It's becoming impossible. And the scariest part? This is all by design. You didn't fail. You didn't overspend. You didn't skip the latte. You got thrown into an economic meat grinder wearing a smile because they told you hard work would be enough. But hard work doesn't beat inflation that's rigged. It doesn't pay rent that triples in 5 years. It doesn't survive on wages that haven't moved since the 90s. This isn't a downturn. This is financial warfare. And the middle class is the battlefield. So here's what you do. Wake up. Speak up. Stock up. Cut your spending where you can. Build what they can't repossess. Disconnect from the fantasy they sold you and rebuild your own economy, one choice at a time, because they're not coming to fix it. They are the problem. This isn't the beginning of a recession. This is the end of the illusion. And if you don't take control now, you'll be renting your life one billing cycle at a time until there's nothing left to bill.